Most churches and chapels that date back to the Great Moravian princedom look like this, ruined. This one is in Stare Miesto. It's a large example of a church from that era. However, nearby, close to Velehrad, is a town or a village called Modri, and there is a smaller chapel of that era that's been reconstructed. Here is that reconstruction of a Slavic chapel. This one, of course, is based on the ruins right next door to it of an actual Slavic church. This one was dedicated to St. John the Baptist. Now, when I was told that there was an actual chapel, church, building just inside the Slovak Republic on the other side of the River Morava from Mikulčice, which was a historic Slavic hill fort during the Great Moravian princedom, I couldn't wait to go and see it. The problem was at the time I learned about its existence, I couldn't cross the border because of the lockdowns, COVID and all that nonsense. But last summer I was able to get there, and this is what I found. This church, dedicated to St. Margaret of Antioch, is believed to be a 9th century building. This area along the Czech-Slovak border, along the River Morava, must have been a highly inhabited area in the 7th, 8th and 9th centuries. Mikulčice is for some actually Velehrad, the capital of the Great Moravian princedom. And this church is situated just 1.4 kilometers over the border, over the River Morava, from Mikulčice, which has multiple churches of its own and is subject of a couple of videos that I've made in the past that I will note for you in the footnotes to this video. The Church of St. Margaret of Antioch is one of a few still standing churches for which the Greater Moravian origin is considered according to Wikipedia. It certainly is one of the oldest churches in Slovakia and was probably built in the 9th or 10th century and first mentioned in 1329. It was actually used until the 18th century when a new church was built in the nearby Slovak village. The origin of the church in the Great Moravian era is inferred from the fact that during archaeological investigation work in 2004, they found 3 graves and jewellery from the times of Great Moravia outside of the church. And the position of the graves already respected the position of the church and contained mortar from the building, and the size and the shape of these fragments indicated that it originated from the construction phase and not later destruction. The remains of the graves are visible on the outside of the church, laid into the ground. The church itself has a modern roof and has been well maintained and looked after, but unfortunately it wasn't open to gain access to the inside. Nonetheless, I was pretty excited to be there and spent quite some time walking around and around the church, feeling the atmosphere and just marvelling at the fact that this building still existed after all this time and all that destructive history in this region of wars and wars and more wars. Now, of course, I was really keen to dowse around the church as well because, as I think I've said on numerous occasions and certainly written in my books on dowsing in Moravia, every single Slavic era church, or rather the archaeological remains of, has an energy line running down the aisle, and some are actually placed on crossings of 2 lines. Now, these lines are not the big type 4 lines, these are smaller lines, maybe 15 paces width or less. But nonetheless, these are the kind of lines that you also find in modern churches sometimes. And I can tell you that having dowsed here, there are 2 lines that cross in the middle of this building. One runs down the aisle and the other one comes in perpendicular. And I'm sure that were I to get into the church, I would discover that the atmosphere that I was feeling around the church is because there is a small vortex within the body of the church. And I suspect that probably this is why the church was sited in this particular position. So I was quite happy because going there that afternoon proved again that the Slavs certainly seemed to know about the earth energies and these lines. And as I was once told in a meditative session by a voice in my head, to the Slavs, this was the rivers of light. Such a nice way to think about the earth energies, and such a wonderful afternoon. Thank you for watching.